and I was in a project called Project 404, which we won't talk about beyond that. It was in another country over there in the Triangle. But so I spent almost 33 months there, back and forth, and doing what we were supposed to be doing. And the guy who puts this program together here, Bob Charest, he was E7 at the time, and I went up to his camp, which was the northernmost camp we had there, 46th Company, and the best kept secret in the world. And we had the best bar, the whole thing going on. Nobody ever messed with us. But they were preparing to move out to go train, take the time mercenaries over. And so he gave me our Car 15 at the time, and a Claymore bag full of magazines. I said, I think you might need these things. And I spoke to him in German, just flippantly, and he goes, hey, what are you going to do when you leave here? So, well, I don't know. He says, well, this is what you should do. So he's been my mentor, and that was 1973. So he's been my mentor since then. In 74, I went straight over to the DET, and the rest is history. So, because he had already been here, he had already done a assignment to the DET before he went to Thailand.
Now, was he going back to the DET? Did he want you to come with him, or did he?
I think that was his intention. I mean, we were pretty close. I was the young medic that did everything. I was out behind the wire and doing all that stuff, so I was able to. I have a personality that either pisses somebody off or they like you right up front, and that's a day-to-day thing. But what you guys have to understand, and I don't want this to come across as a recruitment pitch for the DET, but the DET was a very special place, and you'll remember that I was there for 6.5 years. So from the time I went there at 21, just 21. That's a very formative time in a young man, especially a young warfighter's life. And in those days, in the DET, rules did not mean we're not there to impede the mission. And what you also have to understand is that just because you showed up there didn't mean you stay there. You were consistently being observed. You were training and testing every day. You just didn't know that at the time. And yeah, there was a lot of buffoonery going on and a lot of bullshit happening there, but the whole philosophy was everybody there was a professional. You had to meet some sort of selection criteria to even get there. And most of that was that you were a fully vetted SF guy and you spoke the language. Most of our guys went to language school. I didn't do that, obviously. So when I got there, I was pretty much integrated already because I had Bob Charest there saying, hey, this kid's coming, and he speaks German. I will tell you that when we picked up the CT, I showed you those pictures, when we picked up the CT mission, my team's job, and it was actually across teams, we had selected personnel who were baggage handlers for Pan Am. That was the American carrier, so we were basically the sky marshals. But my job, I wasn't a rider. My job was I was part of the ground crew, so my job was to, I had a submachine gun under my jacket, which I showed you with a flashbang. My job was to go up in the cockpit through the front wheel well. There's a compartment there, and mitigate the threat. Are you talking about an aircraft takeback?
Aircraft takeback.
Absolutely. But I say absolutely without knowing the parameters.
Well, that's the whole thing. That's the whole thing. You just don't know, and that's one of the things that I think that just from what I read, that you guys are pretty good at that.
We trained exclusively for that, and I know that Delta Force got a lot of exposure, saying that they were the experts for that. SEAL Team 6 was the experts for the riverine and the waterborne ops, but their commanders came to our site to visit and watch what we did.
Did Charlie Beckwith come when you were there?
Yes, he did. Well, we have a saying in the training wheels is this. The difference between being a Joe and a pro is a Joe does a task until he gets it right, and a pro does it till they can't get it wrong. And that's my training motto. So when I train people, that's the way I train them. The unit is a very special place, and I said there's a special culture there that doesn't exist outside of those walls. I mean, Delta has their own culture, SEAL Team 6 has their own culture, but that particular unit, because of its mission, the culture was totally different. I mean, if you really sit down and soberize yourself about the mission, what did you just walk into? What did you volunteer for? You weren't going anyplace. You were there to stay. Even though we had breakout teams, the chances of you getting out of there, so you were ready to fight, stay. So that's pretty sobering. Because of our security structure and our enforcement of it, self-enforcement, no one outside of the people who needed to know knew even know today what the capabilities of that unit are or were, and what we had, what we could do, what we didn't do. I mean, we were tasked to do lots of things that nobody even knew about because of our capabilities. because you're constant. You're just because you're off on a Sunday watching foosball or whatever, you go to Frühschoppen for breakfast, whatever, on a Sunday and drink beers. You're on duty 24/7. We always had pagers. We're on 24/7 recall, and I don't know if anybody told you that, but we were. So, and the pressure and the reason was because of we're exactly what you say. We're under pressure to perform. I mean, perform for country, God, country, and perform for you. You know, it's always mission, men, and me. You know, it's always that focus. So yeah, there's a lot of pressure, but if having the right kind of clay and then having the proper molding process and having that reinforced on a daily basis is key.